Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Primal Chaos here, and today we're going to do something very, very left of center, all the way across the Pacific to Japan. This one is by a band called Maximum the Hormone. Now, full disclosure, I am familiar with Maximum the Hormone. I've heard one of their songs many, many times that was just presented to me by many, many people virally over time. But I don't know too much more about them. What I do know is that they have a diverse range of styles, and they're basically chaos wrapped up in like a like a little package of just awesomeness. So like a dumpling in many ways. So anyway, wait, Japanese people have dumplings, right? Yeah, gyozas. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So they're like a little gyoza of joy wrapped up in, like, dipped in a sauce of chaos and craziness and some 70s funk Saturday morning cartoons. So I don't know this song, although I feel like I may have glanced at the video once before. From what I understand, it's about the guitar player had some health issues with his weight. He lost a lot of weight, and, you know, this aesthetically driven Japanese culture weren't too happy about it. And so this song is kicking back against the backlash about him getting healthy. I had a bit of a look through the lyrics, and I mean, the song starts with meh. So I'm in. Doesn't matter. Let's just jump straight in, man. I don't know what to expect, but I'm sure I'm going to love it. Maximum the Hormone. Yeah, how do I get me an action figure? Is that the Wiggles? That's like the Wiggles. Yep. Okay. He seems so happy. Okay. All right. That was some Gene Simmons energy there. Gotta love the Tool shirt. Let's do it. Cool riff. Tasty. Half time. Gotta love those little cymbal in between in between the parts. Let's go back because I want to hear that intro again. That came out of nowhere. Let's have a look. Oh, that's so cool. Wow, did you hear him switching between his ranges of, like, screaming then? He's got this really sort of squeezed out up the top, but then down to the like just switching between words. It's wild, man. Hang on, let's hear that again. That's Wow, did you hear that too? Listen to that. That's like, just going back, listen to the drums. She plays a very 70s inspired kit. It's real loose. It's not like, they haven't mixed it. It's roomy is what I'm getting at. It's like this buffy kind of roomy 70s or, 60s, 70s kit. Kind of reminds me almost of like the Beatles, right? And to use something like that in amongst this kind of metalcore-y kind of element, I mean, it's loosely defined, right? But it seems like it shouldn't work, because typically like proggy, metal-y sort of things, they want either a massive reverb, like a poof, like a fat snare, or they want it really tight and focused, with no reverb that's discernible in the mix, And here she's got this tubby sounding like 60s kit, it's kind of splashy and sort of punky, and it just works. And I mean, it goes sort of hand in hand. Clearly the bass player is inspired by Flea, right? So there's a lot of sort of, energy of like bands like Primus and Chili Peppers, like early Chili Peppers when they were Chaos as well. You can just see, it's almost like all of like Western music influences just went into a sieve and just got distilled down into just Chaos. And these guys somehow managed to, without any context of how the genres fit together, managed to make this cohesive melange of taste. You know what I mean? Everything works really, really well. Let's go back a bit. See if we can hear that drum kit. Hear that snare ring then? The tung and the snare? A lot of call and response too. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, so back in like the very early 80s, Olivia Newton-John had a song called Let's Get Physical, which some of you old ducks like myself will recognize, where even at the time, as a child seeing that video, I thought, oh man, I don't know how I feel about this. But essentially, you had Olivia Newton-John dressed up in her best 80s inspired aerobics outfit, right? Super high cuts and, this and that. And she's dancing around in the gym, motivating these two giant overweight men who are on treadmills, sweating it up with towels, just mopping their brows. And it just felt, I don't know, man. I don't know how I felt about it back then, but this is definitely a nod to that. It's the same. Even like, listen, I mean, the music's disco, right? Which is exactly what Olivia Newton-John was. I don't know if it's coincidence. I got choreographers for this. Come on. This is going to be more of a visual thing, but like, they're just fun to watch, right? Like, I don't know if it's all the dreadlocks swinging or the energy or the stomping or whatever, but there's so much just raw energy in the room. And I mean, I don't know who designed the set pieces for this section, but I mean, it looks like a truck going south with a whole bunch of like Alice in Wonderland aesthetic slammed into a bus going north that was just full of like projects from like a design school art show. It just went boom and you've got this set. It's so cool. Clearly a lot of work's gone into it. You can see there's portraits of the actual band members in the windows and everything. Like it's wild. The spiral on the roof is so Alice in Wonderlandy, And I mean, the long tables with the food on there, you just expect the Cheshire Cat to just be, or like the Mad Hatter and the rabbit to be sitting at the end, It's very cool. Let me go back because I think I was about to jump into a different section. Did I just see what I thought I saw? You gotta be quick around here. I don't know how well you guys can make it out in the small image I got on the screen there, but his amp has a giant sticker on it that says, "I love vagina." Oh my god. Okay, you do you, pal. I'm with you. Come on. I love this dude with the frog. He looks so happy. Oh, this is so funky. Great bass sound too. Wow, game soundtrack. Couldn't see that coming. Maximum the Hormone Brothers. Oh, good streak. Oh man, I want noodles. That looks so good.
肉分厚っ。
でこの豚誰が豚やねんやめろ
この豚14、14、豚14。
ジューシーな
美味しいわ。
上ちゃん食べてる
美味しいな、上ちゃんな。
上ちゃん食べてる
Oh, now where do I get that hat?
もうええってもう。
ラブもラブも
まだ反問引きずる
Oh, that face.
だってもういやいやいやいやいやいやこするなこするなすすれすすれすすれお前。
Well done, well done. Oh my god. All right, all right. We'll be right back. Maximum the Hormone, more like Maximum the Colourblindness. That was a segue. Kinda. I'm sorry, I apologize. On behalf of the entire channel, I apologize for that. 1 in 6 guys or 1 in 200 women that are colorblind. There's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description. It'll take you to the Enchroma website where you can get an eye test and you can find out what kind of colorblindness you have. And while you're there, you can get some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody. In the checkout, use the code CHAOS to get 10% off. Thanks, guys. Okay, so what can you say about Maximum the Hormone 2? I can't remember the rest of the title, other than it's a beautiful experiment in when you take cultural things from a particular culture and you drop them with zero context into a different culture and just see what manifests, right? There was, I don't know how many of you guys listen to Radiolab, but there was a series on Radiolab about how tape, like as in audio tape, changed the world. And that sounds kind of dumb, but honestly, man, they did like a 5-part series, and it was incredible how much of an effect recorded tape had on just the culture of the world, right? Not the least of which in China, there was a thing where these, I can't remember the name of them, starts with D, but these particular kind of tapes that were essentially, you know, back in the 80s, there was millions of bands, you know, making millions of dollars, right? And so record labels would invest in making millions of copies to, no matter what band came out, they'd make a million copies of it because they were hoping it would be the next big thing. And when these tapes invariably didn't sell and they went down through the channels of sale and resale and then eventually ended up at service stations, they'd finally get returned and then they get dumped into China to be recycled, right? And so what happened was people found these tapes, worked out how to get around how they'd been disabled by rebuilding them and putting them back together, and just started these black market sort of you know, music stores where you weren't allowed to listen to anything that wasn't government sanctioned, right? So these underground music stores popped up where you could literally buy entire catalogs of artists from the West, right? And so people did, and because they didn't have, you know, the internet, things like that we take for granted, you know, they would eventually get their hands on all of these tapes with no context. Like, imagine if the first band you ever heard was Nirvana Nevermind, right? And then you were like, okay, what is this? I've never heard anything like it before. And then you go, well, I'm going to go back and see if I can find more. But you don't even know what the name of the genre is, right? You know the name of the band, but you don't know what alternative or grunge or whatever is. So the next record you pick up is Waylon Jennings, you know, and you go, well, that's pretty cool too. And so, you know, the next minute, all these bands were forming that had these wild influences, right? And so today, even still in China, there's so many bands in there that just have wild sort of, to our Western ears, they sound so chaotic because they're mixing something like country with hip hop or country with, you know, classic rock or metal, or, you know, they'll do extreme hard edge kind of 70s punk, but with shreddy guitar solos like you'd hear on Iron Maiden, you know, things like that. And things that shouldn't go together do. And so I'm not saying that's what's happening here. Japan's a completely different country. But what I'm hearing when I hear Maximum the Hormone is influences of, like, you know, 70s disco, Saturday morning cartoons, that sort of like irreverent, punky sort of funk music, like your Primuses and bands like that. And then, you know, mixed with modern sort of metalcore themes and aesthetics and playing, just heavy riffing, you know, and it all sort of goes together. And what lends itself great is one thing that I've noticed with when it comes to like hardcore and metalcore is they never stay on one idea for very long. It always sort of switches up to, like, if you've got an extreme passage of like really aggressive playing and fast blast beats, sometimes it'll give way to a quieter sort of halftime, or what, you know, like, for a perfect example of this is the breakdown, right? It's a completely different section of the song that doesn't seem to match in any way, but it's what everyone waits for because you've had so much of one thing, you want a taste of something else. And so rather than sort of sticking within the bounds of what metalcore is, these guys are sort of going, okay, I'm gonna take this chunk of the song out and I'm going to replace it with disco funk, or I'm going to replace it with something that sounds like it came out of, you know, Hanna-Barbera cartoon, you know, or something like that, you know, or Speed Racer, you know, and it just works so well. Like, it couldn't have been a better genre of music. If you try to do this with classic rock, it wouldn't work. You know, you have to stay within the aesthetic, but because, you know, modern metal sort of gives you license to sort of switch around the tempo and the themes and all of that sort of stuff, you end up with this ability to sort of cross genres within one song, you know, and these guys are using it to brilliant effect, you know. But I mean, you can hear all their influences. Like, the bass player is clearly deriving a lot of stuff from, like I said, your Les Claypools and your Fleas and guys like that. And I know there's more, but for whatever reason, I just can't think of them right now. They're right on the tip of my tongue. And I mean, there's definitely some early Faith No More references, you know, in their playing and stuff like that as well. You know, all that sort of stuff. But then there's the sort of screaming and all that sort of stuff that comes from like metalcore, but also like some deathcore in there as well with those high, you know, there's a lot going on, but somehow they've managed to homogenize it into something that's completely palatable, and it just doesn't seem to get old, you know. The drums are very 70s, 60s even, 60s, 70s, you know, and yet somehow still has that same aesthetic as the rest of the song. Like it all just works. It's kind of like how we've been looking at a lot of parody bands, you know, what we butter the bread with butter, or like Eskimo Callboy or Steel Panther, or, you know, I mean, you guys are telling me I need to listen to Attila and things like that as well. They work because musically they're just all brilliant players doing what they do. And the seriousness is notwithstanding. That doesn't matter if they're, you know, taking it seriously or not. It works because the music works first, and then everything else follows, you know. And these guys live in that weird zone of chaos and disorder, but they tread a very fine line of just making great sounding music as well. So yeah, but I mean, that's all I pretty much have to say about that, except for the fact that if you know, the problem with Maximum the Hormone is most of their stuff online is in Japanese, so I've got no concept about what to do next. I want to do more, but if you guys who've done the research and done the hard yards could hook me up with some great music videos that I could check out, that maybe show a little bit more of a different side of Maximum the Hormone, I'd be keen to see that as well. So yeah, but anyway, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, feel free to buy me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description below. And also, you know, I just hit 2,500 subs, and I say this every single time I hit a landmark, but it just blows my mind. You guys are insane, and it's real testament to how much you guys are passionate about the bands you love. So keep that going. Some great discussions happening in the comments below as well. Like it's, you know, I'm always surprised to hear you guys talking about things amongst yourselves, which is always fun to see as well. That's what we're here for, community. So, you know, but yeah, like, subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff. Thanks again, everybody, for 2.5K. That's doesn't make any sense, but here we are. And thanks. I'll catch you guys in the next one.